Hi again, everybody, and welcome to Inside Golf. I'm Harry Donahue, and today we are at Manufacturers Golf and Country Club in Orland, Pennsylvania. The reason? This is the centennial year, a celebration for Manny's, which opened back in 1925. Manufacturers is a William Flynn design. Actually, you can play 19 holes here at Manny's. That's because Flynn's original design had an uphill par 5 18th. But after a few years, some of the members complained about the long uphill walk after what was already a very long day on the golf course. So they added a par 4 18th green at the base of the hill. So they added this tram car. Yeah, we're going up the hill in a tram car, which was brought in when they added that smaller length hole and a par 4 at number 18. And for a lot of guests and even some members still, it may be the most dramatic part of their round of golf. It's big enough for 2 caddies and a foursome. The tram ride at Manny's, part of the drama of this golf course that's now celebrating a centennial year. We'll be back to help them celebrate. It's Manufacturers here on Inside Golf. The 28th season of Inside Golf is presented by Destination Montco Golf, the first tee of Greater Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Association of Golf Course Superintendents, the Golf Association of Philadelphia, GAP, Jersey Man and Philly Man Magazine, and Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia section of the PGA.
Golf is the great equalizer. For many, this journey is an escape from reality, a chance to be part of a team, a career opportunity. PGA Reach impacts lives through golf by lifting people up, giving them hope, and sending them down an alternate path that they never saw coming. With PGA Reach Philadelphia, as in life and in golf, the most important shot you take is the next one.
Welcome back. Inside Golf now continues. We are in the Heritage Room, a beautiful room in this iconic clubhouse at Manufacturers Golf and Country Club in Orland, Pennsylvania. It's a special year for Manufacturers. It's a centennial celebration. This place opened back in April, I think it was, of 1925. And I'm joined by 2 gentlemen who are members of the Centennial Committee and longtime members here at Manufacturers. To my far left is Alan Hansen. He's been a member for only 37 years, and a member for the last 25 is Charlie Quinn. And they're both members of the Heritage Committee, which is why this room is so special to them and everything that's gone on in the long history of Manufacturers. All right, Charlie, maybe you can get us started. Manufacturers, where did the name come from?
Well, it's a unique name, and it goes way back to 1885. And back in the late 1800s, Philadelphia was the largest manufacturing city in the country. And a very large part of that manufacturing was textiles. There were 700 textile mills.
Just in the city?
Just in the city of Philadelphia. Okay. They had 60,000 employees.
Wow.
So it was a huge segment of the city. And they had a couple of things they were facing and worrying about then, both tariffs and unions.
They worried about tariffs even back then?
Even back then. And they were certainly in favor of them because a lot of offshore textiles were coming into the country. And so a group of the manufacturers got together, they formed an association to try and address those problems, found out that it really worked very well, and they wanted to spend some more time together. So they said, why don't we create a club? And they created in 1887 the Manufacturers Club of Philadelphia. And the charter for that club is directly behind me. It's the original charter that we have framed here in the room.
And there's a photograph right over the fireplace mantle here in this room of the building as it was back then. It was what, 10 stories high or something like that?
Exactly. And actually they went through a
Broad and Walnut was the location.
Broad and Walnut is the clubhouse that you see on that wall It actually was the fourth clubhouse that was used by the club because they grew so fast. They went through 3 other buildings, and in 1915, they built this building, which was
How many members did they have
They had
at the time?
3,000 members.
All from Philadelphia, or did they have like a national membership?
Well, they had a number of national members. In fact, Andrew Carnegie was a non-resident member.
John Wanamaker, too, was a...
John Wanamaker, who ran the largest retail store in the country at that time, was also a member and gave the keynote address when they built that building.
So it sounds like the club was, among a certain type of person, the place to be in Philadelphia.
It was, and they were very successful, and as you know, back in the early 1900s, there were a lot of golf courses being built here in the Philadelphia area.
Right.
And country clubs were opening, and the members of the Manufacturers Club thought they should have one.
All right, Alan, I'm going to swing over to you now.
Sure.
So, okay, the building downtown, a lot of these gentlemen members were golfers and said, hey, it's time for us to get into this, flux of sudden golf courses all over the place. And they came all the way out here to Orland and negotiated and bought Ridgewood Farm at the time. Tell us, what was Ridgewood Farm back in 1924 or whatever?
Right. Well, Ridgewood Farm was essentially, as it states, a farm, but with the onslaught of the railroads, it allowed people from the city to start to come out to the suburbs. And as a result, you started to see a lot of golf courses being built literally very close to railroad stations. What happened was, when the club decided that they wanted to try to build a golf course, they started looking for a piece of land, and they found that this Ridgewood Farm, which had been acquired earlier by the Harrison family.
Sugar refiners.
Sugar refiners, one of the largest in the country. And they had built this mansion, and it became kind of a summer residence for people from the city, and they threw
We're talking about what, 300 acres or something like that?
Close to that, yeah. And they threw a lot of parties out here, and then because the Harrisons were part of Philadelphia society.
Okay.
And so when they found this piece of land, we really don't know why they sold it, but they sold it to manufacturers, and they sold it to them for $170,000, mansion, acreage, and all the outlying buildings were all purchased for $170,000.
Which in the 20s was a serious piece of change.
Sure was, but still quite a steal.
And then they hired to design the golf course, construct the golf course, a young upstart in the Philadelphia School of Golf Course Architecture by the name of William Flynn. He had a reputation starting, but I assume this was one of his earlier projects.
It was, but he became a prolific architect in Philadelphia specifically.
And beyond, but specifically in Philadelphia, Huntingdon Valley, Lancaster, a little bit to our west.
Right, and Lehigh.
Lehigh.
So there were quite a few golf courses that he may not have been stated to be the architect, but he was part of.
It's a beautiful piece of land. And back in those days, they didn't have to move land like a lot of places do today to create vistas and hills and everything else. What you see here is what was here back when George Washington had his Continental Army camped out here, right? I mean, Charlie, maybe you can address a little bit of the history of this land before it was anything. It was the site of where Washington encamped.
Actually, yes. Back in 1777, after the Battle of Germantown, George Washington retreated up Bethlehem Pike and came to this high ground here along Dreshertown Road and set up defensive positions. He had a smaller army than Howe and wanted to try to fake Howe into thinking he had more people, lit more campfires. Eventually, they had a small skirmish, a few minor battles, but because of some information they got through spies, he was able to deflect any serious advancement by Howe. And Howe retreated to Philadelphia, and from here, Washington went to Valley Forge for that famous...
And the rest is history. Yep, for that famous
encampment.
winter. Hey, doing a little history, and a lot of which you folks provided me. Manufacturers over the past 100 years has had only 5 professionals. I mean, that's a pretty low number considering, you know, the way a lot of courses go through pros like potato chips. I mean, and one of the more famous of those 5, gentlemen whose name is well known, I think, still, Bud Lewis. I don't know, how many years was Bud the head pro here?
He was the head pro for 36 years.
36 years. He must have had a lot of friends in powerful positions, right?
Well, he knew an awful lot of people, and really he was an outstanding teacher, recognized across the country, really. A lot of the pros, when they came to the IVB Classic at White Marsh for all those years, would come out here to Bud.
Gentlemen, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to go outside of this iconic room in the clubhouse here at Manufacturers and get a look at this beautiful golf course. The 100th anniversary of Manufacturers continues here on Inside Golf.
John planned his dream golf trip himself. The hotel didn't live up to the photos. His transportation was late, his clubs got lost, so he had to use rentals, which he is now breaking. But you booked your trip with All Access. They planned your hotels, food, car service, and tea times. Don't be like John. Be smart like these two.
Psycho.
All Access, the smart way to book your golf vacation.
The J. Wood Platt Caddy Scholarship Trust is the official charitable arm of GAP. The Trust's mission is to financially aid and empower qualified caddies and those working in golf operations in the pursuit of higher education. Over $25 million has been awarded to more than 3,700 caddies. J. Wood Platt's Empower program strengthens scholarship investment dollars by providing our scholars with exceptional benefits. Visit our website, plattscholar.org, to learn more.
Welcome back to Inside Golf, and what a beautiful day we have here at Manufacturers. We've been talking about the history of this 100-year-old golf and country club with 2 gentlemen, Alan Hansen and Charlie Quinn, and now we're joined by the head professional for the last, how many years now, Peter?
About 5 years.
About 5 years, but altogether you've been here a
12.
dozen?
Yep.
Peter Clarke is his name. Maybe you saw him on the previous editions of the show as a teed-off panelist. Well, we're assembled like a teed-off panel, but how about this view behind me? We're at the first hole here at Manufacturers, and I'd have to say one of the more dramatic opening tee shots, not just in Philadelphia, but anywhere. How would you describe to someone who's never been here what it looks like?
So one of my claim to fame is I worked at Pebble Beach as an internship, and Pebble Beach was the worst view I had in the golf shop. So Spanish Bay, Pebble Beach and Manufacturers, Pebble was the worst. So the view out of our golf shop here right behind us is beautiful bay windows. It's a dramatic tee shot, about a 380-yard par 4 from the back tee, but plays slightly downhill, about a 100-foot drop.
You know, it's dramatic, but William Flynn knew what he was doing, didn't he?
Definitely. Used the golf course very well, the land and features of it. The golf course sits very stately on top of the hill looking over the property. So you get some awesome views looking back up from the course and as well as from the clubhouse looking out. Yeah,
dramatic is probably not enough of a description of some of the holes here, maybe all 18 of them at Manufacturers. They have 5 par 3s. Maybe from the members here, we can get an idea. What are some of the other holes, if you could tick off 3 or 4, that really stick out?
Well, the par 3s are unique in that each one of them is a different distance. Our 8th hole is only 100 yards for most of the members. And
it's downhill. It's into a quarry, actually.
Well, it's right over a quarry.
Right.
And so it's certainly a difficult hole to look at. I mean, it certainly it's intimidating to look at it, even though only it's 100 yards. And then we go all the way up through 230 yards on our 13th hole, which is a very tough tee shot, and with the bunkers that surround the green make it even more challenging.
And actually the tee box of 8, right behind it is the green for 13.
Correct.
Shortest par 3, 8. Longest par 3, 13. No problem for our buddy Rick back in 2020. All right, how about, Charlie, any other holes that we should consider?
Well, our
besides
16th
number 8?
hole, you know, Flynn really loved having 3 quarries on this golf course. And of course, he did have experience at Merion where they had some quarries. So he really incorporated these quarries into several holes on the golf course. Our number one handicap hole is the 16th hole, where a quarry sits directly in front of the green, and you have to carry the quarry in order to get there. And the quarry goes a good 110 yards from the front of the green out to where the fairway ends. So you really do have to hit a good shot.
All right, so 1, we talked about 8, of course. We talked about the number 1 handicap hole, number 16. And then there's the 18th hole, which is unique in many ways. But number 18 originally was designed as a par 5. And the second or third shot, whatever, is dead uphill. Some of the members, I understand, were tired of going up, especially after a long day out there. They decided to make it a par 4. They put another green in. Huh? What was that all about, gentlemen?
Well, in 1932, they actually put in another green because everyone just was exhausted by the end of the round,
right,
and didn't want to go up the hill. You know, today we play that hole as a par 4 most of the time, but we also then, a lot of guys will go over, there's a little tee box that's set up down there, and you play the 19th hole, which is to the upper green, as kind of a little extra bet or to settle a bet. And we also play it, all our tournaments are played.
All the tournaments?
All the tournaments.
You played as a par 5.
To the upper 18th, the way Flynn designed the golf course.
You know, something else before we leave this segment about this first hole. Manufacturers, in its great history, for years was the place where Army, when they came to play Navy in Philadelphia at the Army-Navy game, I'm going back, I guess, into the, 40s and
Yes.
50s. The team actually stayed here in this clubhouse. The coaches got rooms upstairs, but the players, I understand, literally took over the banquet room here at Manufacturers, and they slept on cots before the biggest game of the season. And then Navy, Wayne Harden, when he was coach at Annapolis, of course, he had 2 Heisman Trophy winners within a couple of years, Roger Staubach and the running back Joe Bellino. But they stayed here whenever they would come into the Philadelphia area to play either Temple or University of Pennsylvania. Did the same thing, right? But they ran plays because it's a flat surface down there on that first fairway. Roger Staubach actually threw touchdown passes on the first fairway at Manufacturers. Who'd have thunk that? All right, gentlemen, we're coming back. We've got more to show you. Another tram ride, maybe. Yeah, there's a tram on that 18th hole. Another unique and dramatic part of the history of Manufacturers. Back in a moment with more on Inside Golf.
Our Teed-Off panel is brought to you by Lulu Country Club.
Welcome back. Inside Golf continues with our teed-off panel. We are assembled in the Donald Ross Grill at Lulu, the home of Teed Off. And today's panel includes Harry Mays, he of the podcast Swing It and Ding It fame. Mike Brown, he's the president of the First Tee of Greater Philadelphia. And he grew up on cheesesteaks at D'Alessandro's. What more can I say?
What else do I need?
Huh? Right. And this is Jim Sullivan. He grew up on golf. He's aging, I shouldn't say aging, maturing into golf still. And he's the ambassador here at Lulu to Inside Golf and Golf Everywhere. And I should mention, a former winner of the Philadelphia Amateur.
I'm glad I could get out of bed to make it here this morning, Harry.
So are we, Sully. Harry, you know, the Open Championship has a rota of courses. I don't know how many there are exactly, that every few years will host the Open Championship. American golf, like the US Open, PGA, they have certain clubs that they repeat at. I think Oakmont leads, for instance, US Open courses, but they don't have that, quote, rota status. Is that something you think the Open here and the PGA Championship should adapt and have certain clubs, maybe 8 or 9, and put them in rotation?
Well, maybe the media doesn't describe it as a rota, but they kind of do, in my estimation. The U.S. Open, they're going to Oakmont, they go to Shinnecock, they go to Winged Foot.
They're going to go to Merion 3 times between now and what, 2050 or
Right,
something?
they go to Pebble Beach, they go to Torrey Pines. It seems to be, that core group of courses. I know they sort of stepped outside that bounds years ago when Chambers Bay and Erin Hills,
Some of the newer
and some of
places.
those, you know, sort of non-traditional U.S. Open spots. But I think they kind of do it here to a pretty much a standard rotation of 7 or 8 of the classic golf courses in the United States.
Yeah, so our Brownie does the USGA. They sort of have their courses, and then the PGA has their courses, right, for their majors.
That is correct.
Which are the Open or the Amateur, whatever, PGA Championship.
And they kind of trade off of that. They use that as their barter. We'll give you a Ryder Cup at Oakland Hills so that you'll take a couple of PGAs because that's a very profitable. So the PGA's maximizing their money there, where the US Open, they're looking for a place that can house as many people as they can to, you know, drive the revenue. But I like Harry said, I'm in favor of the classic courses in a rota. I don't want to see Erin Hills. I don't want to see Chambers Bay.
Really?
I don't want to see that stuff. I want to keep the tradition alive of the great classic golf courses.
Like Quail Hollow. Quail Hollow has an event every year on the tour. This year, Quail Hollow hosted the PGA Championship, right? Should a course be in both of those categories, do you think, as a major and also as a regular tour event? Not in the same year, but even like one year to the other.
No, thank you. No, thank you. You know, it'd be like
you want to see more diversity.
Yeah, it's like Firestone. You want to play a PGA at Firestone, but you're going to have the Bridgestone Classic or something there. No, I don't want to see that. I think the classic courses are the course that hosts the Opens and the PGAs. That's what they were designed to do. And if you're hosting a tour event, the infrastructure around that, I don't see it doing both, because I think it's a distinct advantage against the players that don't play on the tour every year, whether it's the PGA players, whether it's the European players that are coming to play in that. So I get no interest in watching Quail Hollow as a major venue.
Oh, okay. How about you, Sully? What's your thoughts on the topic?
So I think I agree with both my buddies here. I think the USGA did something in the last 5 or 6 years creating what they call anchor sites. I think they moved a lot of their facility, but also established long-term events agreements with Shinnecock, Merion, Pinehurst, and I believe Pebble Beach. And I may be missing one or two. Oakmont may well be it. But it's not necessarily a rota. It's not set where you do kind of right in order how the British Open sort of does. But you've got 4 or 5 that very regularly, almost at a maximum once every 10 or 12 years, are the host sites.
Right.
Now there's a combination. You've got to host some non-revenue driving events as well, and I think both USGA and PGA do that. They try to do it well. It's hard to ask a club to take 2 or 3 really non-revenue generating tournaments where you're going to close your course for a couple weeks during. In Philadelphia, you've got a it's really a 7-month golf season, but 4 or 5 months where you could feasibly host a tournament, and then to say we're gonna close it for 2 of those weeks. It's a big ask, but and I don't think it's an easy problem to solve. But I like the classic courses hosting it, the great old-time courses hosting, and I would be in favor of 8 or 9 or 10 of them being kind of where it's set. You're kind of limited. There's not 50 that are classic great courses that have the infrastructure to host the U.S. Open.
And geographically, which means seasonally, it seems like most of the classic courses are in the Northeast, right?
Yeah.
They're not in Arizona, all right? California, okay, Pebble Beach qualifies, I guess.
Olympic.
An Olympic.
Olympic, yeah.
But in the Northeast,
Torrey.
especially, where we are, is loaded
Yeah.
with the kind of courses we're talking about that are suitable to be in the rota, as opposed to Florida, Southeast, Texas, for instance. I mean, where are you going? Tulsa, maybe, with Southern Hills. Outside of that,
I think they want to go west as much as possible to get prime time viewing here on the East Coast. So there's a push and a pull.
there you go. Here we are, a bunch of nor'easters, right?
North of Quail Hollow, it sounds like.
We're pumping the northeast, north of Quail Hollow.
Yeah.
What do you got against Charlotte?
Nothing at all.
Oh, well. All right. Thanks, gentlemen. We'll be back. More of Inside Golf coming up.
On May 27th, the Valley Forge Tourism and Convention Board hosted its annual Travel Rally and Montco Golf Classic at the Union League Liberty Hill. It brought together over 100 leaders from across Montgomery County's $2.4 billion tourism economy. Set on one of the region's premier golf courses, the event kicked off with a networking lunch, and it continued with a day of championship golf. Designed to celebrate National Travel and Tourism Week, The travel rally showcased the strength and the growth of local hospitality with developers, representatives of hotels and restaurants, and golf industry professionals all coming together under the banner of Make It Montco. Through signature events like this, Valley Forge Tourism continues to drive regional visibility to promote its more than 500 member businesses and position Montgomery County as a top-tier destination for leisure, meetings, and sporting events. Inside Golf is proud to be supported by the Valley Forge Tourism and Convention Board.
Hi, Tony Salucci with the Beacon Group of Companies. If your company has between 50 and 500 employees enrolled in your health insurance plan, there's a really good chance we can reduce your costs significantly and increase the benefits employees receive. How do we do it? We put you together with several thousand employers of a similar size across the country, so your company can get amazing buying power. Schedule a conversation with one of our employee benefits specialists today at mybeacongroup.com.
That's going to do it for this week's edition of Inside Golf, the Centennial celebration for Manufacturers Golf and Country Club in Orland. We've had a great time. Everybody have a good time today, huh, guys?
Absolutely.
We want to thank Alan, we want to thank Charlie, we want to thank Peter for their support and giving us all the information over the past 100 years of golf at Manufacturers. Well, what a way to close. How about if we take another tram ride up the hill here at Manny's? For me, it may be the best part of the show. All right, that's it for Inside Golf. Remember, no matter how bad it's going for you out there, on the course or off, don't pick up. See you next week on Inside Golf. Let's see if this thing has another year. It's 72 years old, this tram, and it's going on 73 at Manny's. Adios.
The 28th season of Inside Golf is presented by Destination Montco Golf, the First Tee of Greater Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Association of Golf Course Superintendents, the Golf Association of Philadelphia, GAP, Jersey Man and Philly Man Magazine, and Inside Golf's partner since 1998, the Philadelphia section of the PGA.